In December 1977, in a clinic in Vienna, was the first use of a device which restores hearing, the Cochlear Implant. Since then, many hearing-impaired people on all continents can hear. I'm the Crocodile Smiley, and I wish that all children around the world can hear in every country. Malawi is beautiful, but extremely poor. A miracle at the Blantyre Clinic. What does cochlear implant surgery look like in this country? Welcome to Malawi, a landlocked southeastern African country with 20 million inhabitants. Malawi became independent in 1964 but is one of the poorest countries of the world. The country contains beautiful nature, elephant safaris, and the famous Lake Malawi with rare prehistoric species. However, it also has large areas of poverty with slums. And here we are. Blantyre is the second largest city in Malawi with about 1 million inhabitants. This city is often called the commercial and industrial hub of Malawi. In one of the local hospitals, they've started and are successfully running a cochlear implant program. How is this possible? It's almost like a fairy tale. Dr. David Strachan lives and works in Bradford, England. He met Dr. Wakisa Mulwafa, a Malawian, an ENT doctor who was training in the UK and is one of the very few ENT experts in Malawi. Yes, one of the very few.
One day I'm going to come and see what you're up to in Malawi. Never thinking that I'd be sitting here having this interview years later where we are now. So that was really why I went to Malawi, why I want to go to Malawi, just to visit, not to do ear surgery or never thinking that I'd do cochlear implants here, because that seemed to me like a crazy thing.
When Dr. Strachan was 50, he organized a trip to Malawi with his wife for his birthday. This gave him the opportunity to visit his colleague, Dr. Mulwafu, who mentioned he would greatly appreciate the help of an expert in cochlear implant surgeries. There were no opportunities yet for hearing-impaired people in this field in Malawi.
There was no ENT service in the country before I came back. So we came back to establish the service, and in the last 10, 11 years, we've established this unit. But as you can see, it's still work in progress.
Together, they performed the first 2 cochlear implant surgeries, and from this came the goal to set up the structure and the team of experts which would be able to care for the hearing-impaired children continuously and independently. Later, when Dr. Strachan was back in Bradford, his mobile phone rang.
I just finished a case and I'd read a WhatsApp from a guy over in Malawi saying they'd done the switch on, and Richard, who was the older of the 2, had said his first words in Chichewa, which actually said, "I hear." So I can always, always remember reading that text, thinking, God, we've done it. We managed. It's doable.
Thousands of people live in the slum areas of Blantyre. If you are hearing impaired, you're highly discriminated against and isolated. Your chance of normal life is almost nil. There are around 100 children in each classroom at schools, and if you don't hear anything, you must sit on the side of the class or not go to school at all, absolutely excluded from the other children. And of course, you don't know what's going on. You know nothing, you hear nothing.
The schools here usually have about 100 kids in per class, and so a deaf kid's just going to be left behind, and they're not going to be able to fulfill their education, not be here, they're not being able to communicate with their family, they're just...
Chakunda is one of those hearing-impaired people who got the chance. 2 years after the cochlear implant surgery and the therapies, she was integrated into society. She can hear, listen, communicate, and even sing. She sings beautifully. She also became an expert tailor, and Smiling Crocodile decided to help her with her new sewing machine so she could open her own small tailor shop.
Yesu wanga azawugisa kuta. Yesu wanga azajusa zoiba. Yesu wanga oh Yesu wanga.
Hearing impaired people in countries like Malawi are very isolated and along with their families are blamed for witchcraft. To be part of mainstream society is impossible. Families, especially mothers in the villages, are pushed to abandon such children or at least avoid joining in activities with other children. The families are often trying to find some alternative ways to cure their afflicted children, for example, by using shamans. That's why the Cochlear Implant Center in Blattire is making sure the cochlear implant candidates are able to meet successful cochlear implant users. In this way, they would see that the hearing devices can help enormously, and the hearing impairment can be treated this way, professionally, compared to alternative options.
The operation will take about 2 hours and she'll have a bandage around her head after the operation.
Tukunena somogweza kuti operation ikatenga maola awiri tikapanga operation iyo tikasokapo komanso akakandi bandage mutumbu.
And the stitches will just dissolve away, they don't need to be taken out.
Zosoka ticha tikachokatoka.
Okay. After the operation, she might be a little bit dizzy and off balance, especially the first day.
Tikapanga operation maka siku loyamba mina tapanga kachizungulira pamwe.
And then what we'll look to do is we get an X-ray the day after and then switch on the implant.
Hey! Yeah.
We're watching the cochlear implant surgery of little Dorothy, who was hearing impaired after suffering meningitis 1 year ago. She's the 15th cochlear implant recipient in Malawi to get a miracle ear that will help her to hear once again.
What we plan to do is make an incision behind the ear. We're doing a right ear. We basically have to try and get the electrode, the cochlear implant, from the mastoid, which is behind the ear, between where the facial nerve runs, which is the tricky bit really, and into the cochlea. So it's fairly high-tech stuff, but we've got a new microscope as of a few months ago, which is great. I've also there's a monitor here which will be able to sort of supervise the surgery, because Wakisa, who's Malawian, who's done some of the surgeries now, I'd like him to do some of the surgery as well, so we do it together.
The surgery begins. These are unique moments.
But now we need to drill what's called the mastoid, which is the bone behind the ear, and we're basically trying to find our way towards the cochlea. When we're Dorothy here, well, we're going to switch on in 2 days, but she's quite young. She's been deaf for a while.
What is switch on?
Switch is when you turn the implant. So the implant we've put in there connects through a magnet to the outside to a processor, and the processor turns on the implant. So it sort of switches it on and stimulates the nerve.
No, the operation went very well. There weren't many issues. Like, we get a lot of problems with some of the children here, especially those that have had meningitis, because the bone becomes thick. But this particular one wasn't thick and it went well.
The question then is what she'll hear, and at first she might find it very electronic and just it won't maybe sound like speech. It'll sound more like just beeps and noises. So it's always difficult to know, but with time she'll learn to understand the sound.
Doctors in Malawi provide very professional surgeries, but here they even need to take care and find ways how to equip the operating theater. This is how it works sometimes in developing countries, and we are sure no medical school is teaching this enterprising skill.